The funny thing about freedom is that you only really taste it when every place you used to stand disappears under your feet. I spent the first half of my life building a very impressive place to stand, and the second half watching my guru kick the floor out from under it with one glance. When you run out of secure positions, professor, seeker, lover, activist, victim, you start to notice there's something watching the whole drama that never needed a position to begin with. The ego keeps trying to plant little flags. I am good, I am bad, I am spiritual, I am broken, while the soul is just quietly enjoying the view from nowhere in particular. Every time life breaks your heart, it's really just your latest identity cracking open so the light that was always there can leak through. Service is the great cosmic joke where you rush in to help someone else and end up discovering you were the one being saved all along. On the front lines of protest, in the middle of rage and righteousness, you can learn how to act with all your heart while having absolutely no one inside who needs to win. The guru appears like a person, teases you like a friend, confuses you like a Zen riddle, and slowly reveals that what you were bowing to was your own deepest self. When you stop insisting that the universe give you solid ground, you begin to float in a kind of loving space where everyone you meet is just another way God is saying hello. In the end, having nowhere to stand turns out not to be a problem to solve, but the doorway to the strange, tender freedom of simply being here, loving whatever is in front of you, and not needing to be anyone at all. You know, when I was growing up in Boston, nobody told me that one day my big spiritual realization would be that I have absolutely nowhere to stand. They told me to get good grades, to get ahead, to build something, to become someone. I got very good at being someone. I became a very well-constructed somebody. Harvard professor, psychologist, a wallet full of credit cards, the right friends, the right books on my shelf, so that when people came over, they would know I was deep. I built a very elaborate place to stand. It was like this big psychological platform. This is who I am, and here is why you should respect me. And the thing about those platforms is that they squeak a little, you know? Late at night when the party's over and the dishes are in the sink and the phone stops ringing, you can hear the boards creak. Something in you says, is this really it? Is this all? Do I really have to keep holding this whole thing together? And I did what a lot of us do when the floor starts to feel shaky. I decorated it, got some spiritual rugs, some psychedelic wallpaper. I took LSD. I meditated. I got a guru picture. But if you look closely, the ego was still standing there in the middle with a clipboard saying, how are we doing? Are we enlightened yet? Do they know I'm enlightened? Am I more enlightened than he is? My guru, this old, fat, blanket-wrapped being in the Himalayas, looked right through all that. Feel the tenderness that arises when you realize that everyone is doing their best, according to their level of consciousness, their wounds, their conditioning. Feel how that understanding doesn't excuse harm, but it does soften your heart. You don't have to abandon your boundaries or your discernment. You don't have to stop saying no when no is needed. You simply say no from a place that is not rooted in hatred or fear, but in a deeper love that includes even the one you are saying no to. This is the strange freedom of having nowhere to stand. You belong everywhere. You are not limited to being the victim or the perpetrator, the healer or the wounded one, the activist or the contemplative. You are the awareness in which all these roles arise, and within that awareness there is room for everyone. So we end where we began, with a man who built many impressive places to stand and then watched them all dissolve until he realized that what he truly is has never depended on any of them. And the same is true for you. You are not your latest success or your worst mistake. You are not your trauma nor your triumph. You are not your political stance, your spiritual label, your family story. You are the open-hearted awareness that can hold all of that with infinite gentleness. From that awareness, you can walk into the world, into your kitchen, into your workplace, into the streets, with empty hands and a full heart. You can love without needing to own. You can serve without needing to be special. You can act without needing a pedestal. You can grieve without losing hope. Just be here. with this breath, with this moment, with this mysterious, groundless, endlessly spacious love that asks nothing of you except that you let it be what you already are. Just be here now. He didn't buy my Harvard credentials. He didn't buy my psychedelic badges. He didn't buy any of it. Sitting in front of him, I suddenly realized I had nothing left to stand on. He saw through the costume. And strangely, in that moment of being completely exposed, something in me felt free. That's the strange freedom I want to talk about. The freedom of having nowhere left to stand. I remember one of the first times it really hit me. I was in India, still pretty fresh, my mind full of Western psychology, subtle spiritual arrogance, and lots of unexamined neurosis dressed up in beads. I was sitting near Maharajji, and my mind was chattering. Is he really a realized being? Am I wasting my career? What would my colleagues say if they saw me sitting at the feet of an old man wrapped in a blanket? You know that voice. And in the middle of this inner committee meeting, he suddenly looked over at me like a child spotting a squirrel in a tree and laughed, just laughed. He laughed at me with such love that every role I was trying to play, devoted disciple, skeptical Westerner, serious meditator, just sort of melted for a second. For a moment, I wasn't anybody. I was just there. And then the mind comes back. Oh, I'm having a mystical experience. I must remember this. I will write a book about this. There's the ego again, polishing its badges. We all do this, don't we? We keep trying to find a safe identity to occupy. I'm a good person. I'm a wounded person. I'm the one who always gets left. I'm an activist. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. That last one is a very fancy rug we lay down over a floor that's still shaking. The thing is, every position we take becomes another prison. The identity of the victim confines you just as much as the identity of the hero. The identity of the sinner binds you just as surely as the identity of the saint. Even the identity of the awakened one is just one more t-shirt the mind is trying on in the dressing room. What Maharajji did for me, what grace keeps doing for us, is gently, sometimes not so gently, pulling those t-shirts off. He doesn't give you a new place to stand. He lets you experience what it is to not need one. One time I asked him, well, it wasn't even a question. It was more like a desperate plea disguised as philosophy. I said, how do I find God? How do I become free? What do I hold on to? He just smiled that mischievous smile and said, love everyone, serve everyone, remember God. It sounded so simple, it was almost annoying. My mind wanted a complicated method, a 10-step program with Sanskrit words. Instead, I get love everyone, serve everyone, remember God. But embedded in that instruction is this radical thing. There's no me in it. Not be a great lover, be an amazing servant, be the one who remembers God better than others. Just love, serve, remember. No solid center doing it. That's the trick, you see. The ego wants a stable platform from which to love, to serve, to remember. It wants to be the star of the show. So it says, I am the compassionate one. I am the spiritual warrior. I am the broken one who is healing. And each of those identities feels like a place to stand. You feel righteous or humble or special or unworthy. They all give you a familiar ground under your feet. But the soul is not particularly interested in positions. The soul is that quiet presence that sees the whole play of me and you, good and bad, winner and loser, and doesn't need to take sides. From the soul's vantage point, it's all just God dancing with God in different costumes. The strange freedom is when you start to shift from living as the costume to living as the one who is watching the costume. You don't stop being a person. You still have your name, your habits, your history. You still pay your taxes. You still get hungry. But something in you is no longer leaning so hard on that identity for security. You begin to rest in a place that doesn't need a place. You become the sky instead of the weather. Awareness is like the sky. Thoughts, emotions, personalities, those are just weather passing through. Some days it's sunny. I feel open and kind and spiritual. Some days it's stormy. I hate everybody, especially myself. The problem is we keep thinking we are the weather. I am angry, I am enlightened, I am lost. And then we try to build a house out of the storm clouds so we'll have somewhere to live. Have you ever tried to nail a cloud to the sky? That's what we're doing when we try to create permanent ground out of temporary experiences. The witness, this capacity in you to notice your thoughts and feelings without being lost in them, is like remembering that you're actually the sky. Suddenly you see, look at that anger passing through. Look at that spiritual pride passing through. Look at that grief passing through. It all keeps moving, but something in you stays very still, very spacious. In the beginning, that witness feels like a new position. Now, I'm the one who witnesses. I am the mindful one. The ego sneaks in and takes over the witness too. Look how well I watch my thoughts. Other people's minds are messy, but my mind is observed. Very sneaky, this ego. So the game goes a little deeper. You begin to notice even the one who thinks I am witnessing. You see the pride, the subtle judgment, the need to be the one who knows. And as you see that, there is another little letting go. You don't try to stop it, you just let it be seen. Over and over, you're invited to surrender each new perch you found. Every time you settle on a branch, grace gives it a little shake. Eventually, you start to enjoy the falling, because when the positions fall away, what remains isn't nothing. It's this vast, quiet presence that has always been here. It doesn't say, I am this or I am that. It just is. It's the same presence that was aware of you as a child looking out of your eyes, that's aware of you now, that will be aware as the body gets older. That presence doesn't need credentials. It doesn't need to win any arguments. It doesn't need a story to justify itself. It's just here, being, aware, loving. Of course, it's not like you flip a switch and suddenly you're the sky forever. You still find yourself getting caught in weather. Let me give you an example. I was speaking at an anti-nuclear rally near Rocky Flats. Now, activism is fertile ground for spiritual ego. You get to feel fired up, righteous, on the right side of history. You hold a sign that says no more war, and inside there's a little voice saying, and I'm better than those people over there who don't get it. I'm standing on this makeshift stage, looking out at thousands of beautiful beings who are scared and angry and hopeful. There are families and monks and veterans and little kids, and beyond the crowd, in the distance, there's this plant where they're making weapons that could destroy unimaginable numbers of lives. You can feel the tension in the air. It's thick. I begin to speak, and I can feel my own righteousness flare up. How could they do this? How could they be so blind? My words start to sharpen. My tone grows heavy. I'm drawing lines. Us, the good people, standing against them, the bad people. And in the middle of a sentence, I catch myself. I hear the edge in my voice, and I feel how it closes my heart just a little, how it turns human beings into caricatures, how it makes me small. In that moment, I remember the sky. I take one breath. I look over at the guards standing near the plant, at the engineers, at the officials we all want to blame. And for a second I see their fear, their contracts, their mortgages, their children. I see how trapped they are in the same web of greed and fear and ignorance that all of us are. I remember that everyone is just trying in some confused way to be safe, to stand somewhere that feels solid. So I shift. I say to the crowd, we're here because we don't want to suffer and we don't want them to suffer. Those men in there, those women in there, they are us. We are them. If we create an enemy out of them, we've already lost. Even if the plant closes, the activism doesn't stop. We still march, we still protest, we still organize. But the place we're standing inside ourselves is different. We are acting from love, not from hatred. We're not trying to defeat an enemy. We're trying to wake up our own heart in the presence of suffering. That's karma yoga. Acting without the actor, doing the work without needing to be the doer. You let the action flow through you, and you don't cling to the identity of the one who acted. You're just the sky, and sometimes the sky reigns. Now, All of this sounds very lofty until life brings you to your knees and suddenly you're not thinking about the sky at all. You're just thinking, this hurts. I can't do this. I need solid ground. Maybe it's a breakup, maybe it's a diagnosis, maybe it's losing a job, or your child is in trouble, or someone you love dies. These are the moments when the identities we've leaned on, good parent, healthy person, competent one, start to crack. I remember sitting by my father's bedside as he was dying. I had all these roles running in me. I am the spiritual son. I should be peaceful. I am the teacher. I should know how to be with death. I am the little boy. I'm losing my daddy. All of them were tugging at me. One moment I wanted to chant mantras. The next I wanted to bargain with God. The next I wanted to curl up and sob. And then there was just the simple truth that this frail, beautiful man whom I loved was leaving his body. His breath got shallow, his eyes turned inward, and the roles in me got so confused that they sort of bumped into each other and fell over. For a few moments, there was no teacher, no student, no son, no father. There was just presence, just love, sitting beside love while one form dissolved back into the mystery. The grief came, of course, the memories, the stories, all the human stuff. But because there had been that moment of no position, the grief had space around it. I could feel it fully without becoming the one who will always be broken by this. I could cry and also witness the crying. I could hurt and also sense this quiet place that was holding the hurt without fear. That's the strange generosity of suffering. It takes the ground out from under your favorite identities. It says, you thought you were this, and now this is gone. Who are you without it? And if you're willing to not rush to the nearest new identity, if you can just be in that free fall for a moment, you discover that who you are is not actually tied to any of it. And then when you meet someone else whose heart is breaking, you don't have to fix them or explain it away. You can just sit beside them in that same groundless, loving space. Compassion is born when your own suffering has softened you enough that you recognize yourself in everyone's eyes. Service grows naturally from that recognition. Not as a moral duty, not as a way to earn merit badges in heaven, but as an expression of the fact that there really isn't anyone else. I used to think I was going out to serve the poor, the sick, the dying. I had my helper identity. I had my compassion costume. It felt pretty good, being the one who gives. And then I started to see the deeper joke. There I am, sitting with an old woman who is dying alone in a hospital. I hold her hand. I speak gently. I listen to her stories. On the surface, it looks like I'm doing something for her. But if I watch closely, I see that my heart is being cracked open by the encounter. Her vulnerability is teaching me humility. Her fear is showing me my own. Her gratitude is washing over my arrogance. In allowing me to be with her, she is serving me just as much as I am serving her. In fact, sometimes I think she's serving me more. After a while, this starts to change your sense of self and other. You bring a meal to someone who's hungry, and you can feel the line between giver and receiver getting blurry. It's like two waves meeting in the same ocean. From the surface, it's I help you. From a little deeper down, it's just love moving from one hand to another. But notice, the ego is very clever. It says, now I am the one who understands that giving and receiving are one. I am a very advanced server. You see how it is? It keeps trying to find a place to stand, even on the altar of selflessness. So the practice becomes very simple and very subtle. You just keep noticing where you've taken a position. I am the helper. I am the one who has nothing. I am the spiritual one. And you nod, you smile inwardly, and you keep loosening your grip on that identity. You let the act of service remain, but you don't hold on to the one who is supposedly doing it. Then service becomes very light. You make tea. You listen to someone's pain. You go to a rally. You change a diaper. You hold a hand. And somewhere inside there is no announcement, no drum roll. It's just the universe taking care of itself in one corner of its own body. You have nowhere to stand and no one to be, and so you are strangely free to love. The guru for me was the living embodiment of this paradox. A person who was nobody, and in being nobody, became a doorway to everybody. Maharajji looked like a very ordinary, somewhat plump old man wrapped in a blanket. He ate too many apples. He scolded people, teased them, sent them away, called them back. He would yell at someone for not bringing the right sweets and then turn around and show unimaginable tenderness to a stranger. From the outside, you could make all kinds of stories. He is a saint. He is a fraud. He is a projection of our devotional needs. The mind has a buffet of interpretations. But sitting with him after a while, you start to notice something else. You notice that when you're near him, your mind quiets down, not because he hypnotized you, but because it simply doesn't matter as much. You notice that when he looks at you, he's not seeing your resume, your body, your persona. He's seeing something behind your eyes that you've only glimpsed in rare, unguarded moments. I remember once I was hanging on his every word, hoping for some great esoteric teaching. I wanted mantras, secret techniques, mystical maps, and instead he says, "Why are you so serious? Don't you know it's all perfect?" And then he throws a fruit at me. You can't build a theological system out of a fruit thrown by a fat old man. You either relax into the joke or you go get another guru. People sometimes ask me, "Why do you have a guru?" And I say, bad luck, I guess. Because having a guru means you have someone in your life whose very being keeps undermining your favorite illusions. It's like having a cosmic inspector who checks every place you try to hide. You think, now I'll be the devoted disciple. That's a good position. And then you watch as your devotion turns into possessiveness, into comparison, into drama. And in some mysterious way, through a glance or a word or a silence, he shows you where you're still clinging. But here's the deeper truth. The outer guru is the mirror that shows you the inner guru. Over time, you start to sense that the love you feel when you sit in front of him is actually your own heart waking up. The clarity you attribute to him is arising within your own awareness. The wisdom you hear in his words starts to echo inside you, even when he's not around. One day you realize, guru, God, self, it's all the same presence wearing different outfits. The guru is not a ground to stand on, but a window to look through until you see that there was never any separation to begin with. And then even after he dies, even when your guru is old, fat, and dead, he still gives you grief. He shows up in your dreams in the face of a stranger in a line from a book. He keeps taking away your hiding places. He keeps inviting you into that groundless, fearless love that has nowhere to stand and nothing to defend. Now, you might be listening to all of this and thinking, that's very nice. Awareness, guru, sky, no place to stand. But I still have to pay the rent, raise my kids, deal with my traumas, address injustice. Where does all this groundlessness leave me in the real world? That's a very reasonable question. My answer is, it leaves you exactly where you are, but more spaciously. See, we're not talking about abandoning the personality. We're not trying to erase your story, your responsibilities, your tears, your laughter. The personality is part of the dance. It's the instrument through which the music of consciousness plays. What changes is your relationship with it. Imagine you're an actor on a stage playing a role in a very intense drama. You're deeply in it, crying, shouting, loving, losing, but somewhere you know that you are not the character. That knowledge doesn't make you play the role less fully. If anything, it gives you the freedom to play it more deeply because you're not afraid of being destroyed by it. In the same way, when you begin to rest as awareness, when you start to recognize the soul level of your being, you can throw yourself into your life with great passion because you're no longer leaning on it to define you. You can be a parent and allow your heart to be broken open by your child's pain without becoming the identity of the failed parent. You can be an activist and feel outrage at injustice without collapsing into hatred for those you oppose. You can be a healer, a teacher, a lover, a worker, a friend, and in each role give yourself fully and then let it go when the scene changes. You don't have to cling to any of it as your ultimate stand. This doesn't make you passive. It doesn't turn you into a blob of spiritual tapioca. Presence is not lethargy. In fact, when you're not busy defending your position, a lot of energy is freed up. You can listen more deeply. You can respond more accurately. You're not busy rehearsing your lines in your head. You're actually here for the conversation. And because you're not trying to control everything, you can relax into the mystery of how it's all unfolding. You still act, you still choose. But you have the humility to know that you're a wave in a much larger ocean of causes and conditions. You dance, but you don't insist that the music follow your steps. Sometimes the most profound experiences of this strange freedom happen in the most ordinary places, not in temples or on mountaintops, but in airports, subways, grocery lines. I remember once being stuck in an airport, delayed flights, crying babies, announcements that sounded like they were coming from the bottom of a well. People were pacing, muttering, calling home with wild stories of conspiracy and catastrophe. You could feel the collective irritation building like static electricity. My own mind started in two. I'll be late. This is outrageous. Don't they know who I am? You see, even enlightenment doesn't exempt you from the occasional, don't they know who I am moment. And then I caught the absurdity of it. I looked around at all these faces, tired, annoyed, anxious, and I felt this wave of affection. Each person was carrying their whole universe of concerns, sick relatives, work deadlines, love affairs, secret dreams. All of us were at the mercy of weather, of mechanical parts, of invisible systems we couldn't control. We were all, in some sense, nowhere. Not where we came from, not where we were going, just suspended in this fluorescent lit limbo, holding on to our little carry-ons full of identity props. Something in me relaxed. I took a breath and just watched. A child started laughing at something on a screen. A woman wiped her eyes and smiled after a phone call. A man in a suit shared his charger with a teenager in ripped jeans. Tiny human moments in the middle of the great nowhere of the airport. In that moment, having nowhere firm to stand wasn't a problem. It was an invitation to just be here, exactly where we were, with nothing else to do but be human together. So I closed my eyes and settled into the rhythm of my breath. In, out, in, out. Thoughts came and went. Announcements came and went. People came and went. But awareness stayed, like a gentle open sky around it all. When they finally called our flight, I got up with everyone else, shuffled onto the plane, found my seat. But there was a little more softness in my step, a little less insistence that life had to be other than it was. The ticket still said where we were going, the body still traveled. But inside there was less need to land anywhere in particular. As this practice deepens, you start to see that every encounter is an opportunity to remember who you really are. The difficult boss, the ex-partner, the politician on the screen, the stranger asking for change, they all become mirrors. One day you might find yourself in an argument, shaking with rage, absolutely certain that you are right. You feel the heat in your chest, the tightness in your jaw. And then in the midst of that intensity, there's a tiny bit of space. You hear your own voice railing about injustice, and you recognize the familiar pattern. Ah, there's my righteousness. There's my need to stand somewhere solid. If you're very kind to yourself, you won't judge that. You'll just notice it like watching a thunderstorm roll through. Maybe you even smile inwardly. Look at that. God is trying on the furious defender costume today. And perhaps you soften just enough to listen to the other person, to see the hurt behind their words, to feel the fear behind their stubbornness. You don't have to agree with their view. You don't have to abandon your own. But your identity is not so tightly wrapped around your position that you have to defend it at all costs. Then in that space, something else can happen. A more creative response, a more compassionate action, a deeper truth can emerge. Not because you engineered it, but because you got out of the way. You stopped using the situation to reinforce your identity, and so the situation became free to reveal a different kind of wisdom. Over time, you begin to trust this. You trust that you don't need to cling to a fixed standpoint in order to function. You can live from a more fluid, responsive place, rooted not in your opinions, but in your presence. And the funny thing is, the less you insist on being somebody, the more intimately you can relate to everybody. You look into the eyes of a stranger on the subway, And you don't just see their hairstyle, their clothes, their surface. You feel the same awareness looking out from behind their eyes that looks out from behind yours. It's like catching your own reflection in a shop window, except the window is another human being. You realize, oh, it's all one awareness, playing at being many people, many stories, many positions, one self with nowhere to stand except everywhere. And in that realization, something in you exhales. You can stop trying so hard to be special, to be right, to be safe. You don't disappear. You just become a little more transparent, a little more spacious, a little more available for love to move through. So here we are, you and I, sitting together in this moment. Maybe you're listening with your eyes closed, maybe you're doing the dishes, maybe you're lying in bed. The details don't matter so much. What matters is that beneath your particular story and my particular story, beneath our victories and defeats, beneath all the places we've stood and fallen from, there is this simple, open awareness. It is here, right now, noticing the sound of these words, the feeling of your body, the movement of your breath. You don't have to go anywhere to find it. You don't have to become a better person or accumulate more insights. You don't have to renounce the world or fix the world first. You just have to be willing for a moment to not stand anywhere else. Just let yourself fall back into this awareness. Feel the weight of your body being held by the chair, the bed, the earth. Feel the flow of your breath. Notice thoughts arising, agreements, doubts, memories, and let them drift like clouds. You don't have to push anything away. You don't have to hold anything tight. You are the space in which it all comes and goes. You might notice a little fear. If I don't hold on to my identity, who will live my life? Who will protect me? Who will love me? That fear is tender. You can hold it gently too. You can whisper to it, it's okay. We're not killing you. We're just not letting you drive all the time. The personality will still be there when you need it. You can pick up the me again whenever the play calls for it, but right now, for just these few breaths, you can rest as the one who has nowhere to stand and therefore cannot fall. From this place, look at your own life, the people who have hurt you, the ones you've hurt, the things you're afraid of losing, the causes you care about. See if you can hold them all in a slightly wider embrace. Imagine that they are all waves on the same sea, appearing and disappearing in an endless, mysterious rhythm.